To Norway. Unfortunately for this video series, Norway is not nearly as exciting as Bohemia and Russia in regards to why the migrants would have come. Back in the 1800s, the United States government instituted a number of homestead acts. And what these were basically acts where somebody could apply for, and under the certain criteria, they would be given land for free by the U.S. government. The conditions for this were usually that a certain amount or type of development would have to be done within a certain period of time, or the land would be reverted back to the U.S. Government ownership. But as long as you basically were working the land and you built something on the land, then you had no problem and the land would be yours. These acts were actually still in place. The last person to apply for one, I believe, finally got their certificate of ownership, their deed of ownership, in, I think it was 1983. Although they actually applied in 1976, and after that application date is when they stopped. So Norwegians came over for money. They saw an opportunity to come over and get good tracts of land, and they felt that that was going to be a better opportunity for financial futures for themselves and their family than they would have in Norway. And this was an incredibly successful plan internationally from the U.S. to Norway. Why specifically Norway? I'm not sure. I can only assume that the marketing people in Norway did a crackerjack job and really sold it to the population. Because what we had actually was between 1825 and 1925, there was approximately 800,000 Norwegian migrants to North America. It wasn't entirely for the U.S., but in North America. And over that 100-year period, that actually was probably about a third of the entire population of Norway. So even today we see a tremendous amount of residual effect from this immigration. 55% of the Norwegian descended population still lives in Midwestern United States, which is primarily where these tracts of land were given out. So it had a tremendous effect on both Norway with its loss of people, but also the United States in the amount of people it drew into those particular states and the amount of production that they got out of the subsequent farming of that land. So like I say, so unfortunately there's nothing quite as exciting as wolf attacks or famines or anything, but they saw a great opportunity and they struck out for it. So traditionally, the music that they would have had back in Norway was influenced from fairy tales and mythology. So it had sort of a very fantastical basis, and you can even see that still today with a lot of their even heavy metal bands that are very sort of fantasy themed. Traditionally, there were two types of folk music. There was vocal folk music and there was instrumental folk music. The vocal folk music was, not surprisingly, songs that were sung by people. And that was just whenever they felt in the mood for singing, or if they were getting together at the local pub or something, they broke into song. These would be the songs that they sang. The instrumental music that they had was primarily used for social gatherings. So it would be for feasts or weddings or funerals or any other such event. The instruments that were used would have been things like the willow flute, the hardanger fiddle or hardanger fiddle, and the buka-horn. And some of the traditional dances that they would have had are the paparin, which again is kind of it's a circular sort of dance done with men and women together, but it would have been a different style than they would have experienced upon coming to the United States.